Okay, so it's that time of year again, and we at the Critical Cinema Club thought that we'd get into the Christmas spirit and give you our list of movies set during the Christmas holidays that are well worth your time. In at number 5 is a John Landis directed comedy that helped launch the career of Eddie Murphy after he co-starred in 48 Hours. And that film is Trading Places. Set over the Christmas period, greedy businessmen, the Duke brothers, place a bet with one another that if they took one of their top employees, who is a rich, entitled snob that has everything in life and more, and swap his life with a street bum who has nothing and has to hustle and scam to make a living, would it result in Dan Aykroyd's Lewis Winthorpe III resorting to a life of crime out of desperation, and in turn turn the street bum, Eddie Murphy's Billy Ray Valentine, into a respectable, hard-working member of high society? It's a bit like a twisted social experiment for their own enjoyment. It also stars a young Jamie Lee Curtis, who was already known for her TV roles and the first 2 Halloween films, and a young Gus Fring, played by Giancarlo Esposito, in a blink and you'll miss it role. It's a funny twist on the Prince and Pauper story, with Murphy and Aykroyd excellently funny throughout, and this festive comedy is well worth your time.
I want a lawyer. Is there a lawyer in the house?
In at number 4 is an action film that doesn't really get mentioned when you debate films set over the Christmas period and whether they actually are a Christmas film at all, and that's Lethal Weapon. Directed by the late great Richard Donner and starring Danny Glover and Mel Gibson as odd couple cops who are paired together to solve a murder case that escalates into mayhem. Glover is the play-it-by-the-book family man who thinks he's too old for this shit.
I'm too old for this shit.
With Gibson the unhinged loose cannon, almost to the point of being psychotic. Very much the odd couple. And then there's Gary Busey as Mr. Joshua, who is even more nuts than Mel Gibson's Martin Riggs.
What are you doing?
Oh, just checking to see if I was standing on plastic.
Who have an epic fight on the lawn of the Murtaugh's house. And it's brilliant. The film is set over the Christmas holidays, but the Christmas theme isn't front and centre like another film I'll get onto, but is a brilliant action caper as well as a funny buddy cop comedy, and is definitely well worth your time to watch over the Christmas holidays.
I'm too old for this.
For a number 3 pick, I could have chosen Die Hard, but I've spoken about that film at length and I don't really want to keep going back to the well too often.
Welcome to the party, pal!
So I've gone for its sequel, Die Hard 2. Yeah, I'm cheating a little bit here, but I genuinely do love this film. Not as much as the original, granted, but it's still a fun, entertaining action movie with a lot of rewatch value. Die Hard 2 keeps with the formula that made the first film so great, but it was made bigger and bolder with much bigger stakes. Here, John McClane finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time once again when a military group gone rogue seized control of the Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C. in order to free a captured drug lord and ride off into the sunset. The terrorist group have control over the tower as well as the runways so that none of the circling planes can land unless they say so. And with McClane's wife Holly on board one of those planes that is low on fuel, John McClane has to do what he can to stop the terrorists. And it's set on Christmas Eve, just like the first film. Die Hard 2 is a great watch. Yeah, it's riding the coattails of the first film, but it has its own charm with everything ramped up to 11. And is most certainly worth watching over Christmas, after you've watched the first one, that is.
Happy trails, Hans.
For a number 2 pick is a Steven Spielberg film full of adventure and charm, starring the late great Robin Williams as the boy who would never grow up, who grew up. And that film is, of course, Hook. The movie is set during Christmas as a now grown-up Peter Banning takes his family to visit his old nanny and friend, Wendy, played by Maggie Smith. Peter has forgotten who he is and he's grown into an adult living a normal life as a lawyer, but an old foe comes back to haunt Peter, who kidnaps his 2 children, resulting in a return to Neverland after he's visited by miniature Julia Roberts, who plays Tinkerbell. The villainous Captain Hook wants his long-awaited revenge over his old foe, who has become old, so Tinkerbell has to make Peter remember who he is with the help from the Lost Boys. This is a great adventure-filled swashbuckling caper that doesn't get the love that I think it deserves. It really is fun for the whole family and a great film to watch over the Christmas period. There is a great blend of humour and action, with Robin Williams really shining as the adult Peter Pan. Bob Hoskins is also great as the bumbling first officer Mr. Smee, with his relationship with Captain Hook seeming more like an old married couple. And then there's the main villain of the piece, the titular Captain James Hook, played brilliantly by Dustin Hoffman, who is menacing, conniving and darkly humorous, with Hoffman stealing every scene that he's in. His version of the character seems tired, hollow, frustrated and cantankerous, as his sole purpose is to battle his mortal enemy, Peter Pan. But since Pan left Neverland, he feels just like a shadow of his former self. Peter Pan completes him. He goes to lengths to bring Pan back to Neverland by capturing his 2 children in a way to almost reinvigorate himself. He craves this fight to the death with his old foe, but the Peter that arrives back in Neverland isn't the one that left. I absolutely love this film, and it has so much charm, and it is a great film that is well worth watching during the Christmas period. In at number 1 is another film that had involvement from Spielberg, about a small town with a tight-knit community that becomes infested with little green monsters, and the film is set over the Christmas holidays. This is Joe Dante's Gremlins. Struggling inventor Randall Peltzer is in search for a Christmas present for his son Billy, and for some reason chooses to look in an antique store in Chinatown. I mean, if he didn't, then there wouldn't be a plot. So he finds a small furry creature that he wants to buy as a pet, but the owner, Mr. Wing, doesn't want to sell. Although his grandson does, giving Randall 3 warnings or rules about the creature. It's not to be exposed to light, as too much light can kill it, do not let it get wet, and don't feed it after midnight. Which to me never really made any sense, because where's the cutoff? I mean, I am picking this gem of a movie apart here, so just go with it. Anyway, Billy receives the Mogwai, which actually means devil in Chinese, and they are also a brilliant post-rock band from Scotland, as a present, calling him Gizmo. He's a cute little fella and is kind-hearted, unlike the other Mogwai. Corey Feldman spills water on Gizmo, resulting in 5 more Mogwai spawning from him, and these little dudes are not friendly. More Mogwai are created because rules are meant to be broken. Stripe, the leader of the new group, tricks Billy into feeding them, turning them into little green monsters hellbent on destruction after they hatch from their cocoons. And you can probably guess what happens next if you haven't seen this film. The Gremlins soon turn into a destructive swarm that terrorizes the town. Gremlins blends horror and comedy brilliantly. It's hugely entertaining, with a rather wickedly nasty tone at times that complements the comedy elements. The Christmas element is merely a backdrop, with having such an outlandishly horrible event occurring over a time of togetherness and love, and it's glorious. Yeah, you can pick this film apart with its obvious plot holes surrounding the lore of the Mogwai, but then you would be missing out on a hugely entertaining film that can frighten you just as much as make you laugh. And Gremlins is a film well worth watching over the Christmas holidays. And that's our list. What films do you like to watch over the Christmas period? I could have also mentioned Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy that I watch every year during Christmas, as they were released in the UK over the festive period, and it's become a tradition of mine. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. I've been Colin from the Critical Cinema Club, and have a very Merry Christmas.